Hi, hello everyone. So this is the video dealing with section 1.6, transformations of functions, and this is the second part where we go over the translations of functions. So this is the beginning or the first type of transformation that we can do on functions. And there's two types of translations. So we can either go, as you can see here, a vertical shift, which is up or down from a standard position. So take a look at the graph. The standard graph is the one in black, right? This one right here. This is an example of a quadratic function x squared. Okay, so this is the common function. And a vertical shift would be up, a downshift obviously would be down. Or we can have a horizontal shift, which is either right or left from a standard position. So again, the quadratic function in black is the standard one, and I can either go right or left, right? So this is a shift right or a shift left. Now, it's only possible for us to do the translations once we know how to do or how to graph the common functions that we're supposed to know. So let me review this real briefly here with you. These are the functions that we're supposed to know. Just keep in mind that the constant function, the first two here, and the identity, we don't do transformations because we can graph them as they are. Okay, but the absolute value function, the quadratic function, the square root function, the cubic function, and the cubic root function, these on the bottom, these we must know how to graph because otherwise we can't do transformations. So the transformations will begin with us graphing, as you see here, the standard or the common function first, and then doing the transformation, one transformation at a time on paper. Okay, so two types of transformation, vertical shift, up or down, horizontal shift, right or left. Now, so how do we identify them? All right, so I'm gonna make an observation here, which is critical that you understand. So in this case, I'm glad your book used the quadratic function because it's a very good example. Because of the shape of the graph, it's easy to see the movement or the transformation. Here is the basic function, x squared. So the horizontal shift is a little bit more complicated. So let's take a look at the vertical shift first. Once you know the vertical shift, then the other movement would be the horizontal. Okay? The vertical shift has either a plus or minus outside of the basic function. So it's not going to be affecting the x variable directly. Okay, so I'm going to add or subtract some number. Okay, as you can see here. If the number is plus, it's a shift up. If the number is negative, it's a shift down. Okay, the graph of the up is the blue. The graph of the down is this reddish color. Now, so this is a vertical shift. Now, in the second case, look how the function is written. This value k is inside of the square function. So here on the vertical shift, it's outside. On the horizontal shift is inside the square. So if it is inside the square, is a horizontal shift. In this case, if it's inside the function, it would be a horizontal shift. If it is plus, it is a shift to the left. Okay, this one is the x plus 2 square. Now, yes, normally you would think that the x plus 2 would be this one, the blue, but it isn't. Okay? The reason for that is we have to add 2 units to X to get it back to its standard position, which is the black. All right? So just memorize it that if it is affecting the function, if the value of K, for example, is inside the X right here, inside the function, and if it is positive, it's a shift to the left. If it is negative, it is a shift to the right. All right? And again, notice the distinction between when the K is not being affected by the function, it's a vertical shift. If the K is being affected by the function, which is in this case the square, it's a horizontal shift. Okay, on the vertical shift, if it's plus, it's shift up from the standard position. If it's negative, it's a shift down. For the horizontal, if it is plus, it's a shift to the left. If it is minus, it's a shift to the right. All right, so that's hopefully clear. And the second point I want to make here is the following. Once we know where the shift is going, all of these 4 different cases, how do we graph it? You're going to graph based on a particular location of the curve. For each of the common functions that we have, they do have a common point. For the parabola, it is the origin right here. So we're going to move this point to the new location and then regraph the parabola again. Okay, either up or down, and then regraph the parabola. In this case, we're going to center at the origin. We're going to move either left or right and regraph the parabola. And your book suggests, recording, and you see an example here where it finds another couple of points and then graph it, but I have a better solution for us that's a little bit simple. Okay, so we know how to do, you recognize the transformation and you know how to graph. Let's take a look at the first example. But just keep in mind that in this video, we're not going to talk about too many examples because at a later video, we're going to go over more examples where we actually have to graph. So here's the function where we need to graph. It's a square root function, and we have one transformation here. So the very first thing that you should do is understand what this transformation is. Okay, is it a vertical shift or is it a horizontal shift? Now, I mentioned this before. Imagine that your function is the square box here. If I have a plus or minus outside, this is a vertical shift. If I have a plus or minus inside, this is a horizontal shift. And not VA, VS. So which is it? Notice that the plus 5 is inside of the function, which means it's a horizontal shift. Okay, very good. Now we take a look at the sign. Is it plus? Is it minus? It is plus, which means what? It's a shift to the left by 5 units. Okay, so 5 units to the left. So once we identify the transformation, we go and we graph the standard function, in this case, the square root, and it looks like this. And then we already know what this transformation is. It's 5 units shift to the left, horizontal shift. So we focus on a single point of the curve, which in this case is the origin again, and we move 5 units to the left. and then we regraph the function again the same way. We don't need to worry about picking a point here. In the next video or the last video where we do the examples, I'm going to show you a better way to do this. And this will be the graph. Now, if there was, normally these questions, we have multiple transformations at the same time. So for example, let's say I had this function here and then plus 2 outside. Okay. This is a scenario like a vertical shift. After you move the graph here, you can do the vertical shift, and because it's plus, it's up. So then you still go back to the key point of the function, which is in this case, this location right here, and you move that point 2 units up here, and then you regraph the function the exact same way. All right. So this would be the graph of square root of x plus 5 plus 2. Right? So this is exactly how we do it. All right, let's take a look at the last example. So here's our last example, and this is a common type of question where you have 2 transformations. I have one transformation here, and I have another transformation here. So again, let's remember that if the plus or minus is not being affected by the function, this is the standard function, then it's a vertical shift. Because it's negative, it's a shift down by 3 units. This number, the plus 1, is being affected by the function. So it's a horizontal shift, 1 unit. So it's a horizontal shift, 1 unit to the right. I'm sorry, left. Here's my arrow to the left. Okay, so I have 2 transformations, and I already know this is the square root this is the quadratic function. So I go in, my first step is graph the quadratic function, the parabola in standard form at position at 0, 0 with the vertex. And then I can do whichever transformation I want to do first. So your textbook decided to do the horizontal shift first is perfectly fine, but if you wanted to, you could go down the 3 units first. So it goes down, your textbook goes to the left 1 unit and regraphs the function. Okay. And later in the last video, I will show you which additional points. You don't need to get these points to simplify your work. And then from here, from this new graph, I do the last transformation, which is 3 units down. So from here, we focus on this point and we move this point 3 units down. And then we regraph. Okay. We regraph the function. Obviously, this is the result. They can do better than I can do, right? There you go. So we went from 0, 0 to here and then down here. All right, so these are the 4 basic translations, up or down, left or right, that we begin our study of function transformations. In a future video, we're going to see the other types of transformations.